what I'd like to do is frankly refer to two documents that I believe you have. One is a state of the program report, and the other is the Bay Barometer, and I'll just make brief reference to these and frankly walk through the state of the program report, which represents the collage, the collection of all of the activities representing this diverse partnership, federal agencies, states, NGOs, and others who contribute. Back in March, the Bay program issued the Bay Barometer, which is a premier example of the science, the data, and environmental measures that we have underpinning the program. I'm not going to go through this extensively. The good news is we saw some very positive measures in progress. Two, for example, we saw a 48% increase in blue crab populations, and we saw an 18% increase in submerged aquatic vegetation. So those are positive indications that we're making progress. But to put it in the broader context, when we look across the environmental and ecosystem measures, we're certainly not where we need to be or want to be in terms of restoration. Next, I'm going to simply walk through this State of the Program report and highlight some particular items. On page 3, in the middle, just a quick summary of what you heard from our very passionate, energetic, and enthusiastic advisory committees. They are behind the scenes helping to drive accountability, performance, and action by this great partnership. Bob Caranci, who has agreed to change his name to Jeff Caranci, will be giving a brief update on TMDLs, but I did want to share with you just some brief observations that he's going to likely make. EPA and the states across the country have done 30,000 TMDLs designed to remove impaired water bodies from these dirty water lists. This TMDL for the Chesapeake Bay watershed is unique, bar none. The level of science, its scope, its complexity, and its reach are going to be pretty unparalleled. States have done a great job historically of developing tributary strategies that define the actions that need to be taken. Those state tributary strategies are just going to need to be raised and elevated in their importance and their effectiveness. I think one of the advisory committee chairs made the point that non-point sources are a key aspect of making this TMDL work. The 2-year milestones that Jeff Corbin will talk about become a critical milestone, a critical way to enhance the accountability of all of our collective efforts. And a nod to Penny Gross and the importance of local government. As we move forward with this TMDL, we need to effectively engage local governments, local watershed groups, the people who will help influence activity on the ground. I'm going to skip over to page 5 for a moment and just remind you and acknowledge the key sources of nutrients and sediments that are the principal drivers to our water quality problems. They continue to be agriculture, wastewater treatment plants, air deposition, and polluted stormwater. The pie charts on page 5 begin to give you a better sense of how we're looking at these sources, and the hatched areas reflect those sources that are currently regulated under federal programs. So it begins to beg the question, can we expand how we look at these existing authorities and existing programs to expand the breadth and scope of our programs? The map over on the right side is pretty interesting. This is new. This was just created in the last week or two. It shows the major impervious surface areas throughout the watershed. We have a regulatory tool called municipal stormwater permits. They frankly only cover about 66% of these impervious surface areas. So we have an opportunity to consider, again, expanding the reach of our regulatory programs to bring more of these sources into play. On page 6, I just want to highlight that this program continues to adapt and evolve with an emphasis on performance, accountability, and transparency. With the help of your principal staff committee, we have a new organizational structure that is driving towards the environmental outcomes that we want to achieve. It's the first time that we've oriented the organization to those outcomes. And the goal implementation teams will be led by a collage of federal, state, and NGO partners. So this is embodying the notion of adaptive management and shared leadership. We're in this together. And a last point on page 6 is another basis for our continuing improvement is that we as a program are still addressing recommendations from 6 Inspector General reports, a report from the Government Accountability Office, and the President's Office of Management and Budget. So there's lots of internal and external pressures to continue to improve and change. On the top of page 7, I want to assure you that this program is using the new Farm Bill money in a targeted and focused way. We are also striving to look at the monies from the American Recovery Act as a key opportunity to support restoration activities in the Bay.